Since I'm going to go teach on the other side of the planet, it means that I'm taking an unpaid leave temporarily, leaving my current job for 2 years. I say this because I'm not leaving my job because I don't like it. I'm going somewhere else just to live the adventure. This is the best teaching job I've ever had, and it is at least second position in my favorite jobs of all time. The first being actually working in television, in making television shows and developing and hosting television shows. But contract work, especially unpredictable contract work, is rough on a young family. As far as I know, my colleague and I are the only two full-time cinema teachers at the high school level in all of Canada. Our students have no idea how lucky they are to have the opportunity to study what they're studying. During the 5 years, our students get to study filmmaking from grades 8 to grade 12. They have the opportunity to have a film class every semester. During this time, they learn all the basics about making a short film, writing a screenplay, editing, literally everything in between. This is not professional level, of course. These are still high school students, but I mean, it's kind of really great. Not only is this a really fun class for the students to have, I mean, I would have loved to have the opportunity to have a filmmaking class every semester of my high school. So it's great for them. But as a teacher, it's also really great for me. Of course, it's a job. So there is some drudgery involved and there are challenges. I mean, I am dealing with teenagers, but I like to tell people that I come to work to play. And if you've been adulting for a while, you can appreciate that a job where you go to play is a pretty sweet deal. I just wanted to go on the record to say that if I'm leaving all of this, it's not out of dissatisfaction. I'm hoping that a job in an international school is going to give me new opportunities, chief amongst them being a greater affordability of travel, at least in Southeast Asia. The rest of the world is still. If you're curious, and if you're still watching this, you probably are, this is how I went about getting a job in an international school. You can't just call up a school in the city and country of your choice and ask them if they have a job for you. Well, I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. The right way, and probably the most efficient way, is to go through an online recruiting agency for international teachers. The two sites I used were Scroll and Search Associates. Associates, not associates. There's a fee associated with both. I chose to put my eggs in multiple baskets, and I paid the fee for both. I think it was worth it because this was important. What you'll find on these sites are teaching jobs for international schools all over the world. The Middle East and East Asia seem to be the most prominent ones, the biggest ones, and China is the biggest of them all. There are a ton of jobs in China. I did see a few jobs in Europe and Latin America. I applied on them, but they are by far the minority. What's so complicated about putting things back where they belong? Something worth mentioning is that these online recruiting agencies also organize career fairs all over the world. Now, I didn't go to the one nearest me in Toronto by Search Associates because I already accepted a position by that time. But if my family and I choose to stay abroad for longer, than the initial 2 years, well, maybe I will swing down to Bangkok or Singapore and get a job on the spot. This, by the way, is what the students have nicknamed the ramen room. It's just a sound insulated room. And the reason they call it the ramen room is because of the texture of the sound panels. Ramen room, ramen room. But I'm not entirely sure what's going on over here. Now, if you've ever been on any kind of job bank or job site, there's nothing surprising about what you'll find on Scroll and Search Associates. You input your professional information. Yes, even if you're uploading your CV, you still need to put all of that information in. And you're also going to put all of your personal information, including the personal information of your spouse and dependents like children, if you have any. There are, however, a few things you're going to have to prepare other than the obvious ones. We'll need a better plan for this. You're going to need a well-written biography of yourself, obviously. And I included a video testimonial that I did with the help of my students from last year, but it doesn't seem to have made much of a difference. You need a recent criminal background check from your country of origin. Again, nothing special there or different. You need a copy of your professional designation certificate. You need a copy of your teaching credentials. And this might be the most complicated one. You need 4 references, with at least 3 of those being professional references, which means principals, department heads, stuff like that. People who know what kind of teacher you are. And note that you won't be able to see what they wrote in their reference for you. So make sure your person's good books, because if they don't like you, then you're not going to get a job anywhere. And the final thing, of course, is you got to pay to play. These sites aren't free, but I think they're worth every penny, because without them, you can't get a job in an international school. Once your account has been activated, all you have to do is sit back and wait for the jobs to come pouring in an orderly, consistent manner. That's not true. It was not consistent at all. Here's how it works. Between October and November, the current international school teachers all over the world, well, they have to tell their schools, are they going to be there next year or not? Because that will determine the school's needs. Now, HR of every school has to wait for those responses, and then they have to get organized, and then they post the jobs on Scroll, Search Associates, and wherever else they post jobs for international teachers. Most schools, from what I can tell, have a 2-year contract for signing. So you go there and you have to be there for 2 years, and that's it. If you don't like it, well, you tough it out. If you don't tough it out, the consequence is you'll probably never work in an international school ever again. After the 2 years, though, you are a free agent. You're not obligated to stay at that school. You can stay if you want, but maybe Dubai is calling you, or the mountains of Switzerland. I don't know you. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, applying for jobs and vetting the schools was a stressful process for me. I would have loved to have a position where I teach cinema or media studies or something along those lines, but sadly, filmmaking is not something that is commonly taught. And I don't know why. It teaches a bunch of useful skills, not only creatively, but you're talking about team building, teamwork, working with other people, collaborating with other people. You're talking about long-term project management. Like, these are all things that will be useful in the real world. In addition to knowing how to write a film, how to use a camera, how to take good audio, etc., etc. I mean, filmmaking should be taught more, in my opinion. But since filmmaking is not taught everywhere in the world, I applied mostly for jobs that had to do with my other qualifications, primarily English. I am a certified English teacher, and not English TEFL, which if you've ever heard about teaching internationally, that's probably what you're thinking about, and that is teaching English as a foreign language. That's not, I'm qualified to teach English to English speakers, native English speakers, like Shakespeare and stuff, although I don't teach Shakespeare. I teach films instead. Every time I saw a position I liked, I applied and gave them whatever other materials they needed besides what was already in the website, either on Scroll or Search. Really hard time. Search associates, not associates. My God. I gave them what they wanted, and usually that was, what was there, plus maybe a cover letter, personalized cover letter speaking specifically to this particular position and why I was the perfect candidate for that position. And then I would spiral. I'd go and research the school, the neighborhood, the city, the country, the cost of living compared to where I currently live. I went down the rabbit hole pretty much every single time. And one website that was useful, I'll put the link down below, is International Schools Review. Now, take those with a grain of salt. It's like I could leave a review on that, and if I had a bad experience, I'm not gonna say good things. So I took things into consideration, but I also read some of the reviews for what they were. Sometimes the employer is the problem. Sometimes you're the problem. But sometimes it's the employer. I'm just saying. Just so you can see how deep I went into the rabbit hole, this is the spreadsheet I had going to track all of my applications. So it looks a bit like, let's see. So I had all when I activated, all of this stuff, when the interviews, all the places, all of the job. These are all the rejected ones, and these are all the ones that were still active when I got a job. And in total, ding, see, I applied to a total of 36 places. 36 places. That's 36 applications, 36 neighborhoods researched, 36 rabbit holes I went down every single time. One of the frustrating things that was going on with some of the positions is that they kept pushing back their application date. So I applied on something and I was really primed. I was really ready for this position, and then they'd bump it back 2 weeks and then a month. And I was like, can you please just close it so that we could do an interview or not do an interview? I got mostly rejections. Some places I got rejected for, okay, there was one school in Hanoi, and the job was exactly the job description of what I'm doing right now. And there can't be a million cinema teachers in the world or media studies teachers in the world. Like, it's a rare thing because most people in film work in film. They don't work in education. So why did you reject my application, Hanoi school that will remain unnamed, right? Other schools were kinder. They told me why they rejected my application. One of the things that they rejected applications for was because they were looking for people with international baccalaureate experience, which I do not currently have. Some were looking for people who had already worked in international schools. Okay, thank you for telling me. I now know why you rejected my application. That makes sense, right? And the great thing is that the school where I'm going to teach is going to give me A, experience in an international school, and B, they are going to give me training for the International Baccalaureate, and I will be teaching the International Baccalaureate at least at the 11th and 12th grade levels, if I understood correctly, but I don't always understand correctly. I'm human. You look at me and you're like, oh no, this guy is not just human, he's more. But no, I'm just a boy. Eventually, I landed a job at the Canadian International School in Ho Chi Minh City. I will have all of these qualifications to maybe continue working in international schools, going around the world, or maybe I'll just stay in Vietnam. I mean, I might like it too much. Another sweet perk about that school is they throw in lunch. It's a pretty nice perk. I agree with that perk. especially, I did look at the menu because, you know, I look into stuff, and there's always a Vietnamese option. So, you know, if you're a teacher like me and you're craving adventure, maybe international schools is the way to go. You could be young, you could be fresh out of teacher's college, or you could be a man of a certain age, or a woman of a certain age like myself, coming up on 40 real fast. It's the way I chose, and we'll see in the next 2 years if I made the right choice, but I think I did. We'll see, but I think so. In the meantime, I mean, I'm gonna miss this place, for sure.